another call. So today we're gonna be going over well, we're gonna try to end the week in a strong win streak. So if you guys noticed, right, we've been holding a very long win streak already for this entire month already with October. So October, you guys have been seeing the win streak. We've been pretty much winning almost every single trade, which is great. Now, this is where obviously we need to control our psychology when it comes to winning a lot of trades, right? Because when it comes to winning a lot of trades, there can be a few things, right? Obviously, you get the overconfidence, and then you get that you can pretty much read every single type of setup, right? So at this point here, since we have been winning almost back to back to back every single day, what I like to do at this point here, especially when the week is coming to an end, right? Every single trade that I'm gonna start taking right now, this is where I pretty much start reducing the way that I trade, right? When I say the way that I trade, it's just reducing the times or reducing the setups that I take. So, for example, we've been winning the past couple weeks already, and this was yesterday where I started managing my risk a little bit lower, right? Because obviously there can be different type of psychology that can be going on with whenever you guys are pretty much, overconfident, right? And that's honestly how I feel as of right now with all of this entire win that we've been winning, right? So obviously I'm making sure that I'm taking setups that actually make sense, right? So in this morning, I have taken one setup already, which is this entire buy position, right? Now, this buy position that I took this morning, right, is mostly a counter trend trade buy position, right? The whole entire buys that I have for the day is going to be specifically on the sell side, right? So I'm more interested in looking for the sell position than what I am looking for buy position, right? So let's go over the sell position. So this right here is going to be the sell notes, and then I have the buy notes right over here. But let's start off with the sell position, which is what I'm looking for throughout the whole entire day so far. Hopefully it does plays out the way that I have planned out here. So if we take a look here at gold, right? Obviously, gold in the trend size, we have been completely bullish, right? Yesterday, we made an all-time highs here with gold, which is around the 43.80, right? Now, in the 43.80, this is a zone that I want you guys to focus on, right? I want you guys to focus on the last three candles right over here. So we have the first candle, right, which obviously had a wick towards the upside, already showing that there is a potential, seller opportunities around these zones, right? Now, notice how, again, two more price came back towards this area, respecting these exact highs. So we kind of go down here on a lower time frame perspective, maybe the 1 hour or 30 minutes. You guys can see how price action from right over here has already built up an area of resistance, already showing us that sellers are inside the markets, right? Now, there's ways that the market can have reversals, right? So, for example, the first way that the market can have reversal is that price action is coming from a previous structure. So if price action comes back from a previous structure, there is a sign that there's a reversal, right? Another sign that there can be a reversal is obviously if price action has been overbought or oversold. In this case here with gold, we have been overbought, right? Obviously with this entire push towards this upside, price action just been creating clean higher highs and higher low structures, right? Which I personally believe that price action still has to come back any between lower, like I would say somewhere between these exact highs over here where there is sitting demand, where I do believe price action can drop a little bit lower to actually continue this entire trend healthy, right? Now, going back into what I was saying about these entire highs, which is going to be these areas of resistance, right? This here was built up during the Asian session, right? So we had the first push towards the upside, we had the first rejection. This is already showing us that sellers were in control of the market, right? Potentially in control of the market. Price session from there on had a huge drop down towards the downside, right? And exactly came back towards the same zone that we had the buy position from yesterday morning session, right? So this is what we're going to be looking at from right here. We're going to look at this initial push towards this upside. And then when price action came back to retest this exact initial push, right? So this initial push from right over here, this is exactly what happened yesterday during our New York session, right? We had the break of structure to come back and retest anywhere between these exact highs. This is exactly the highs that we took the buys from. And then we got stopped at a break even from this trade, unfortunately. And then price session had the perfect move towards the upside, which we were anticipating, right? But we did manage to secure a good amount of pips in this point here. But this zone here is exactly where price started building up an area of demand. Right, so this is exactly where the first initial move happened towards the upside, right? Now, obviously, whenever there's an impulse move, price action has to retrace, right? Whenever it has to retrace, it comes back towards specific zones where there's still unfilled orders, right? In this case here, the unfilled order is going to be exactly at this area of demand zone, right? So notice how perfectly price action broke towards the downside, came back towards this demand, and then we managed to maintain itself above. right? And then all of this entire rejection towards the downside, right, is obviously liquidity grab, and as well is going to be considered as sell side liquidity, right? Pretty much stopping all of this entire sell order forward towards the downside, right? So pretty much everyone that was looking for sells from here, we're getting stopped out. So this is going to be one of the confirmation that we build up, right? Showing us that this area of demand at this point here has been holding very nice. And then notice how price action once again spiked towards the upside. And once it spikes towards the upside, we break above this entire structure, which was previous higher lows, right? From this previous higher lows, it shows us that obviously buyers took control of the market once again. Now, we're coming back towards these areas of resistance, right? Notice how many times price action attempted to break above these highs here. So we have one attempt here, we have another attempt from this point, and then we got two more sitting right over here. Right, so we got two more sitting from right down point, and then I just want you guys to also notice this area, which is going to be considered the 43. I would say 43.50 will be a good area. Make it more exactly at the dot, 43.50. So in the 43.50, notice how price action perfectly once again build up this higher low. So currently, whenever price action was trading above the structure, obviously there was still a little bit of buy orders, right? Because again, we're still trading above these higher lows and above these higher lows over here, which also build up an area of support. Now, whenever price action came back towards this resistance, then I want you guys to notice how it was just ranging from one point towards another point, right? So from zone to zone, price action was ranging until we finally got the breakout towards the downside. So this breakout towards the downside, if you guys look here at the notes, this right here was a structure shift, right? This was already a good confirmation showing us that price action has a possibility of switching structure, right? So again, going back to the confirmation, we have these areas of resistance, right? Which obviously build up a major supply zone from here, showing us that sellers are in control of the market. Then we have the break of structure, breaking underneath these entire previous higher low structure, which higher low structures are obviously bullish structure building up a new low structure. So if you guys technically look under here, this is going to be considered as lows, right? As new lower lows, because these lows here are lower than the previous lows, which was considered as higher lows, right? So just basic market structure shift. Very simple. At this point, are you guys picking up? Are you guys understanding pretty much the market structure shift at this point? You guys see exactly what I'm looking for? All right, cool. Perfect. So we're on the same page. So from here, right, I want you guys just to notice how price from this point here, we had another push towards the upside. Now this side, if you guys take a look here, this is all buy side liquidity. So this is technically price action having a reversal, building up that potential higher low, and then having the fake push towards the upside. So technically all of this entire wick rejection towards here was buy side liquidity. So that means that there was a lot of buy stops order being rejected at this point over here, which obviously price action respected all of this entire market structure. So if we're looking at it from the institution and we're also looking at it from the market structure, right, we're pretty much rejecting these areas of support, which obviously turn into an area of resistance, right? And from this area of resistance, notice how we build up an area of supply. So notice over here, price broke below 43.50 key level, previous area of support, which obviously price came back. This had a buy side liquidity towards the upside, rejecting all of these entire highs, which is already building up an area of supply zone, right? And then from there, we had the retest of the supply. So this is technically the retest of this entire supply, showing us that, again, sellers are in control. Sellers are protecting these zones over here. Buyers attempted buys above it, but it failed. So all of this entire move towards the upside was just simply fake moves, right? So this wasn't really considered as a healthy buy. All of this was just considered as a fake move. And then once again, price action had another break of structure under 43.20, which was in the area that it was previously holding above. So again, this is going to be considered as another low because these lows over here was not lower or not under. This is going to be considered as another low. And then we finally created another low. This is going to be now considered as another low because these lows here are respecting all of these entire lows. So if we kind of go back here onto the sell side, now we're looking at it from the sell side. All I'm simply going to be waiting for is for price action to once again come back towards a 43.50. So the 43.50 is the idea zone where I'll be very interested in taking for sell positions, right? So I'm waiting for price action to pretty much clear off all of this entire structure from here, break above highs, take liquidity towards all of these highs here. And if it closes underneath the 43.50, that is the idea that I'm going to be selling the market. Now, I want you guys to also look at this structure right over here. So let's read this first. So you think there's going to be a reversal in the 43.45? Is 43.45. No, I'm looking for the reverse around 43.50. This is where personally think the price action is going to have a pullback towards these areas, which is coming back towards the same exact supply zone where it had the first initial move. I do believe that price action can still come back towards these areas and obviously, reject towards these zones over here and continue to sell off. So it's just technically just going along with the market structure. I'm also going to talk about this zones over here because this is technically as well like a good way to explain it. This is technically as well what is this over here? I have it somewhere. Give me 1 second because I had this marked up here too. This one here is consider, if I tell you guys exactly what it is going to be considered as a mid-range, right? So this is exactly why we don't want to sell the market from this point and why I'm looking for price action to come back towards the 43.50, right? So all of this entire zone here is technically, if you guys follow the original market structure, right? If you guys know the basic logic, which is price action creating lower lows and lower highs, obviously this here will be an idea for a potential reversal, right? And as you guys can see, it is still kind of selling off. You can kind of see already these wicks over here showing us that sellers are still taking control around these levels over here. Now, the reason why I wouldn't personally sell from this point over here is simply because it's a mid-range, right? Notice what the risk to reward will be at this point. So for example, if I would have entered the market from here and my stop loss would have been literally like above here, just notice the risk at this trade. We're technically going to be risking over 270 pips, right? Which is technically a huge stop loss at this point, right? Another thing, we still have all of this entire space inside. So like I was telling you guys, this is a mid-range. We have previous structure where price action was bouncing from one point towards another point. So what can we expect from here? If we expect price action to break back above these loans, so let's say we would have entered the sell here, we have so much space in here that price action is just going to be ranging. And then there's a possibility that price can either take us out of stop loss and then have the initial move that we want. So this is technically, stopping out all of the impatient sellers. Or there can be the possibility that price session does go into the range, but then we get the move that we want, right? But obviously we want to focus on taking the high probability, not the setup that there is, a potential luck, right? So again, this is going to be considered as a mid-range. And then there's no clear liquidity sweep towards the upside, right? It's just pretty much an empty space. So that's exactly why I wouldn't really sell the market from this structure, right? Or pretty much just following this entire concept, which is waiting for this break and retest, right? Does it make sense to sell the market from here? Now, what would make sense though will simply be if price action, if we actually break above these highs over here, then there is a possibility that we can look for a second entry of the buy position, right? So pretty much the entry model that we took today was very different compared to the one that we took yesterday. Yesterday, we took a break and retest setup, which means that if we see price action break above these structures over here, we can look for the same exact entry model that we did yesterday, which is just waiting for price action to break above these structure. Oh, my bad, guys. To wait for price action to break above these structures, so pretty much a candle closure above here, and then price action to come back and retest these zones, right? Because again, if you guys kind of look at it from this side perspective here, you guys can also see how there was pretty much previously buyers stepped into the market around these levels, right? You guys can see it from all of this entire left side. So it's just technically looking for context clue and just adding up all of this entire key levels and just making sure that these key levels obviously are high probabilities, right? So in this case here, if I'm going to be entering a second buy position here, I would like to see price action have a break of structure above the 43.20 and then come back to retest it. And if it closes above this entire zone, then obviously we're trading above all of these entire areas of support. And we're also above all of these entire areas of resistance. So that means that market structure from this point here, we're now forming a new structure. So we went from a bearish structure to now a bullish structure. We have this high, higher low, and then a potential higher high, higher low to then continue towards the upside. That will be the only way that we can actually look to enter the second market, right? As you guys can see from this point here, we are retesting this exact fair value gap. So we come back here on the 1 minute time frame perspective. We're technically retesting all of this entire gap, right? And then notice how price session has already rejected it, and already had the bounce towards the upside. Now, a way to explain to you guys why we continue seeing decent type of selling pressure is simply because we're still trading underneath these 4320 structure. So it's like I was telling you guys, this is not the zone that I would like to sell because we're inside this exact mid-range, but there is a possibility that price action can obviously reject from here because it's just following this entire market structure. So that is the idea that I have right now with the sell side. If we're looking at it, the buy position that we took this morning here in the VIP, we took a buy, which was very simple, right? It was just a buy position that was just continuing the trend towards the upside, right? This was going to be considered as well as a counter trend trade buy. What was your confirmation for the 42.96? All right, so let's get into the buy position now. So here, if we look at it from the buy perspective, right, we have price put back into demand zone, which is going to be the 42.90. So this is where I was telling you guys earlier. Price came back towards these exact areas where we had the first initial move towards the upside. So notice how price action just perfectly maintained itself this area of support. So again, if price action comes back towards this level, we have to wait for the rejection, right? Now, obviously, whenever price creates a strong support, there is possibility of price action continuing respecting all of this entire trend, right? And the fact that we're still trading a bullish trend, that's going to be another fact that the trend continues being bullish, right? We're still creating all of this entire bullish structure. So if you guys look at it from a 4-hour time frame perspective as well, you guys can see the bullish structure from here. All right, let's just make sure you guys are doing. You guys can see all of this entire bullish structure towards the upside. We're still respecting all of these entire lows. Now, going back towards the intraday time frame, let's go back here. So if you notice how we respected all of these entire higher lows, lows here, lows here, I want you guys to also notice how we're trading above a minor resistance zone, right? So that's going to be another perspective. We broke above these highs over here, which price action came back to retest it and build up all of this entire support. So that's a clear view. Now, the second confirmation that we got here was simply this entire sell side liquidity sweep, right? Notice after this huge sell towards the downside, right? Very nice sell off towards the downside. We came back and retested this exact demand zone, right? But if you guys look at this, how price action broke towards the downside, this is where a lot of sell orders were being placed, right? This is the impatient traders, right? This is why it's very important to understand this type of concept because this is the type of trade that I personally would have taken probably years ago, right? This simply would have been the break and retest set of me thinking that the market was just simply going along with the trend. But I'm not really focusing on what's going on towards the left side, right? So this is why it's very important to really understand this type of concept to understand how to catch these type of entry. For example, this is very, very similar to the entry that we caught this morning. This move here was very similar to the entry that we got. We had a pullback towards this demand. We had the south side liquidity sweep towards these lows over here. And then from there on, price action started building up all of this entire bullish trend. So again, we go back here. If we look at it from this perspective, we have price action pull back towards the demand. We had the liquidity sweep, which is all of this entire sell side liquidity. And then from there on, we had a bullish reaction. We had a bullish reaction from this exact demand zone. So if you guys come here from the 5-minute time frame, you guys can literally see how price action perfectly came. Broke underneath, we had a swept, and then price action had the bullish reaction towards the upside, right? So very simple. This is how exactly the trade looked like. We came back towards the man. We had the bullish reaction, and then we started building up the bullish trend. And from there on, this is where I focus. I focus on a 1-minute time frame fair value gap. So if we go back here on the 1-minute time frame, this is exactly the FVG that I was focusing on, which was after this entire swept towards the upside and then price action breaking above the structure, which left a nice perfectly gap from right here. And as well, if we align it with the fib level, I actually did use the fib from this point. So I used it from this low here all the way to these highs. Notice how it came back to retest inside the golden zone. The golden zone is going to be the 0.5 and the 0.618. Right, you guys can see that from this point. So we came back, price action came back to retest this 1-minute fair value gap as well, forming that higher low and rejecting off this entire Fibonacci level. And my entry signal was very simple. My entry signal was after this candle, pretty much close above these lows over here. So let me just take this out so you guys can see this. Once price action came back and closed above these lows here, which was this candle, that's exactly the entry signal that I got. So my entry was at 42.96. I sent out the signal from this point here, and then price action from that point just flew out. But that was the exact setup that we took this morning. And if we go over, like I was explaining to you guys right now, how price action is just retesting this exact gap over here. Let me just put this in another color. How price action is coming back to retest this exact fair value gap from the 5-minute time frame. Just notice how it continues bouncing off. But this will be very risky for us to re-enter, right? Or very risky for us to enter this type of setup right now. Because again, we're still trading underneath these lows here. So the only way that I'm going to be looking for that second potential buy entry will be simply a break and retest above these highs with a 43.20. So that is technically pretty much the analysis that I have for today, the breakdown of the trades that we're going to take today. So we're going to be taking two trades. We have this buy position that is on right now. We can potentially enter a break and retest set up above 43.22. And then the other position that I'm going to be taking is going to be these exact cells here. So those will be the two setup that I'm going to be taking this morning. So you guys got any question? Do you always need a retest before entering? Yes. So the retest now, I would say there's sometimes that I enter a trade impulsively, right? But the impulsively have to make sense, right? But the retest obviously is going to be 100 times better because we have to align with this entire trend, right? So if I give you an example, if I give you an example over here, notice how the market was still very much bearish, all right? Oh, my bad, guys. So notice how the market from this point we were still very, very bearish, meaning that price action has broken underneath all of this entire structure. So just because price action came back towards an area of support or demand doesn't really necessarily mean that price action is going to repeat the same exact history, right? It's going to repeat the same exact history if there is a retest and the rejection towards these levels, right? So for example, notice how we had the sell side liquidity towards the downside and we had an infinite push towards the upside. So immediately price action had to push towards the upside. But then notice how price once again we kind of sold off. We kind of sold off. Now the retest was the confirmation to tell us that hey, this here was an actual buyer move. Let's say that 80% of buyers stepped into the market from this point, right? And then we finally came back to fill up the rest of the order, which is focusing on these exact retest areas, right? Which can be the fib level, can also be the fair value gap levels, right? Price action came back towards these levels and then just simply notice these lows here to these lows here, already confirming us that there can be a potential buyer stepping into the market, right? And all we have to look from this point here is just the entry signal. So that's why it's very important because what are the chances that price action would have inverse this exact lows? Again, all of this here with trading is just a game of probability, right? What if price action would have inverse all of these entire lows here? Then price action would have completely switched side and then we would have gotten stopped out. So that's why it's important to wait for these type of retests. What we got here? Can you explain the Bitcoin trade plan and what do you see coming for the day? Wow, we're gonna talk about that Bitcoin trade because we took a Bitcoin trade earlier this week and it took us out of break even and I saw it last night and I was like, wow, that one played out amazing. So market moves very fast, so I don't able to place a trade. Just 2% away from my 2% away from my first payout. Let's hopefully we get that payout. Sounds clear. Thank you. Look at so we just got stopped at a break even right now. All right, so we're gonna hold this for now. We're not gonna enter yet. So we're gonna hold this for now. Price right now is just having a little volatility. What do we have? Do we have any news today? Yeah, it is very risky right now to re-enter. So there's nothing going on. There's nothing going on here. All right, so we just got stopped at a break even with this trade, which is fine. Um, really fine right now. We were only able to secure 101.5. Okay. Now, at this point here, what can we possibly see, right? Oh, I forgot to explain. Good thing we just got stopped at a break even because I completely forgot to explain to you guys another zone that I have marked up. Wow, how did I forget this one? All right. So this is what we need to watch right now. I'm actually going to be setting up a limit because this is actually the trade that I want to take. So notice how we have all of these entire lows here, right? So yeah, the government is still shut down, so there is no news. You're right on that one. So notice how we have all of these entire lows over here. Remember how I was telling you guys that it's sometimes it's very risky to, take trades just impulsively whenever price action comes back towards areas where it already had a reaction from it, right? The reason why I say it's risky, because what is the chance that price action repeats the same exact history, right? Which is what is the chances of price action repeating the same exact zone that, hey, this is an area support, let's just buy here. Obviously, there needs to be confirmations, right? I personally as well believe that this here was just the first move, right? The idea was for price action to have the first move towards here so we can finally sell off, right? But just notice how these levels over here, 43.20 was the actual area that price action had to sell off, right? Now, I'm still going to be holding this zone here for now, but as of right now, what I personally think we're going to come from here is that price action is simply going to have a liquidity sweep towards all of these entire lows. So technically, we're going to be taking out all of these entire lows and we're going to come back towards these exact zones. These levels here, when we look at it from a 4 hour time frame perspective, is going to be these exact 4 hours areas of fair value gap. All right, you guys can see this from this point here all the way to here. This is exactly the zone where we can potentially see buyers step into the market. Potentially, as of right now, you guys can see how price just continues selling off. So it's not smart for us to enter the market yet, but you guys can clearly see how price action has the possibility of coming back towards the same exact level where we had the bullish reaction from yesterday. So this move here can potentially be a sweep towards all of these entire lows over here. And just notice how, as of right now, we're having that, the 30-minute price is coming back towards these levels. And right now we're having that infinite push, right? Price action is already kind of having that reaction from it. It's not smart for us to enter just yet because right now, obviously, we have a huge bearish candle. So obviously, we want to make sure first that these zones here is valid. And the way that we make sure that it's valid is simply waiting for price action to sweep out all of these entire lows from here and make sure that price action can close above the areas of interest. So if we manage to close above these zones here, like I have it marked up, then this will be a good zone for us to be looking to sell the market or to be looking to buy the market. So you guys understand that part? Mm. Yeah, yeah. So we just want to make sure first. We just want to obviously make sure and just be patient because obviously right now the volatility is crazy. So we don't want to be taking impulsive trades. But you guys can clearly see how that can be another scenario. Now, obviously, if price action does close underneath the 42.50, then we were not right with the analysis, the chart analysis, and then we just simply react and adapt. But as of right now, you guys can see how price just continues selling off. But again, this zone here was the idea. So remember how I was telling you guys we could also look for sell here, but wasn't really worth the risk because we still have this exact mid-range, right? So this is why it's very important whenever you take trading more, whenever it comes to managing risk more heavily or more aggressively, right? You have to be very cautious with what type of setups you guys are taking, right? Because we could have taken this setup here but then we could have had, possibility of getting stopped out, right? Obviously, we don't want to be in that mindset or in that stress that we're going to be focusing too much on managing the trade, right? We want to play out the trade just simply how it needs to be played out. So look at this. We're having that sweat right now, which is the idea what I'm looking for. Now let's just hope that we get an entry. Oh, oh, yeah, the patient game is going to be right here. Patient game is gonna be right here. I'm gonna be making as well a video for here in the free Telegram and the VIP, maybe just for the VIP, but I'm gonna be sending now exactly the entry signals, the entry models that I use for, so I can show you guys exactly how do I enter the market. So hopefully we get a good entry signal here so I can show you guys live, but I'm gonna be making one of those videos as well. So check this out. Right now we're having that swept towards these exact lows, and price action is just building up this exact, bullish reaction so far. So right now we're just gonna wait for price action to build a little bit higher, and then we can just start looking for buys. So that's gonna be the idea of the day. What's up? Wow, this is already moving up quickly. You see how this 5 minute just closed, swept out all of these exact lows over here? That is an idea of what we want. So now we go back here on the 1 minute time frame and we want to look for, well, there's still nothing built up yet. And this is where we have to be a little bit more careful because again, now we're trading underneath these exact lows. So this is literally going to be a patient games from right now. We're literally just trading underneath these exact lows. So the market is still not ready for us to buy. I'm going to be waiting for at least price action to build bullish structure and then a retest at a specific zone. So as of right now, there's still nothing built up that is perfect, but that would be the idea that I'll be looking for. And then we can sell, then we can buy the market. But yeah, zones to zones, that's exactly how we need to react. A price can just take off and we're not in this trade, but it is what it is. Now, let's go very quick to Bitcoin. I'm going to be trading Bitcoin this weekend, but let's go over the trade that we took earlier this week with on the weekend that we got stopped at a break even and just look how price perfectly melted. This would have been our third win with Bitcoin because we already had two wins. We had one win here, we had another win here, and then now this could have been another big win. So that would have been three big trades here with Bitcoin. But Bitcoin right now, we're still we're still trading bearish as of right now. And we finally broke underneath these exact lows here that's been holding for a very long time. So what are we right now? We're in the 10th, and this basically has been holding since the 7th. The 7 is July, I believe so. Yeah, it's July. So we've been holding above this area of support since July. And then price action has finally broken underneath these zones here. So there's nothing here yet for Bitcoin. I'm just gonna be waiting to see how price action builds up here and how the weekend or pretty much how this week closes so that we can actually start trading it. But this can be a lot of volatility towards the downside, picking up liquidity. So we're looking at it here. I don't see anything clear or anything good worth taking right now. But this was the trade that we took, which was very simple. It was just price action coming back towards these exact supply zone here. So just notice how we're just simply trading off. Yeah, I'm probably gonna give a Bitcoin signal this weekend if obviously we get what I wanted to see, and I'll be sending out Bitcoin. And then this was the sell position that we took. It was just very simple. We broke underneath all of this entire structure and we just built up all of this entire supply zone. So it was just a pullback towards supply. Look at gold, mm, it's back at the 86. I had a sell position here with US 30 yesterday. I closed out market at this point. So I took a sell from here and I closed it here. And it just continued dropping. Would have been nice. But now what I'm seeing is that it inverts this entire huge higher time frame fair value gap or demands of my bet. Yeah, so we kind of already inversed it, and then price action is just coming back to retest. So I'm probably gonna be taking something here. But yeah, that's gonna be the analysis and the breakdown of today. Do you guys got any question before we close out this live call here? So very quick, you see this here? This is exactly what I'm talking about, why sometimes very risky. Because now we're trading underneath these areas of support from here, on all of these entire lows, we're trading from it. So they're showing that obviously there is potential seller, but this is exactly what I want to see right now. So this is actually a good sign here. Now we're gonna wait for price to at least build up here, break above these highs, and then start building up all this bullish structure. That will be something that I would like to see. What do you mean by positional call? Yeah, this is exactly. Yeah, you see, that's exactly what you said. It flipped it, but now we're gonna wait for the confirmation. So that's something good to know. The five as well, we're closing technically how we want it. Let's just see. Hopefully we get an entry signal here. I'm locked in at this point here. I want to catch this trade. A positional trade, which is likely open for more than a week. Okay. I haven't traded like that in a long time. I've been focusing more on day trading. For positional trading, I do it mostly with Bitcoin, but we can probably find one with gold. Probably look for one starting next week. We can probably look for those big trades, like those big swing trades, will be an idea. So yeah, so very, let's see here. Yeah, now that you see all of this entire thing, exactly what we went over, pretty much sweeping all of this entire load. Good thing we talked about it quickly too, before it actually happened. So it swept out all of this entire load, just coming back here. The idea now, we might get an entry signal here soon. So I'm gonna give it 5 minutes, and if we don't get an entry signal, then I'm just gonna call it out in the Telegram. But right now, what I'm gonna wait for is just gonna be a candle closure above here. So now that we're pretty much building up all of this entire bullish structure, we just wanted obviously to maintain above all of this entire, right? Just wanted to maintain above here. So technically we need something like this, and then a candle closer above these highs here. That's exactly where I'm gonna enter the market. So maybe 42.96, I will re-enter the same exact position. 42.96. So look at this. Hopefully we get it. We get it. It's very close. Here's here's on. Did I go to the gym today? No, not yet. I'm gonna go later on. Today we have chest day. Today we have chest day, so I'm gonna go later on after this call. Hopefully we get the setup that we trade before we get in. So what is Price doing right now? Best day. My favorite days are to work out has to be back. I like doing back. Back is a good day. Hello, Sebastian. You do what is 1-to-1? Do you mean 1-on-1? So you see how Rice is just respecting these zones. We can also probably mark up this one here. So these are two areas. We can take a high risk buy from this point, which is 42.72, which will be high risk, or we can just wait for the setup, which will be the break and retest above 42.96. So those can be the two idea of the date that we can take right now. I'm gonna be all right. So this is what we're gonna do, guys. We're gonna set a limit right now at 42.70. We're gonna set up a limit at 42.72. This is gonna be high risk. So let's just 42.72 will be an idea zone. We're gonna have our stop loss underneath these five lows here. Probably under this wick. Nah, a little bit lower. We probably have a 42.62. And then we can have our take profit back above these highs here. Well, we're gonna have our take profit open for now, but I'll probably be closing out somewhere between 1 and 3. So let's set up this limit right now, which is 42.72. This is gonna be 42. Wait, don't set it up yet. Don't set up the limit yet. I like the idea of it. Now, it obviously will be considered high risk, so the probabilities aren't there, but this is where it gets okay. I'm gonna risk only one little bit percentage on this trade here. I don't mind risking what we just took right now. So I'm gonna be taking this trade. We're gonna set up a limit at 42.72. I'll let you guys know when. Not yet. Look, and now we're getting that break above here. Let's see how that five looking like. All right, so 42.72. You ready, guys? Let's do this. 42.72 is gonna be our entry signal. So let me send down the trade. Oh, my bad. Four and a half, TP1, TP2, TP. All right, cool. So I just send out the signal for you guys, the VIP. Now this is, again, this is going to be a high risk trade because we're kind of having bearish reaction from it. So it's still going to be a little bit high risk. So just be risking a small percentage in this case here. And this is exactly where we want to be taking the buys. So 42.72 and 42.70 is our entry. We're going to say this is medium risk, risk. All right, cool. Now that we got that set up, we're gonna wait. Hopefully we get activation from here. This is gonna be the trade that we're gonna be looking for. Something like this. So let's take a screenshot of this. And hopefully it plays out. All right, we're getting closer to that limit, guys. We're getting close to it. We're like 70 pips away from that. All right, so now we got the activation. So there you go. Take profit one just hit and take profit two. Look at that. Take profit two is just right there in the corner. Holy shit, this was just Well, we're back here at entry, so let's just be patient. Don't go break even yet, guys. Don't go break even yet. So we're active. We're back at entry. All right, so both of the entries are now active. All right, so now we have the entry at 4260, which is active, or 4270. So I'm gonna say both limits. So both limits already active. We're gonna close out 4272 if it comes into break even. So if we get into, oh, there's a little bit drawdown in here. Move the stop loss a little bit lower to 56. Oh, sure. Hopefully it goes quickly. 4256 is where I'm moving my stop loss for a little bit. Oh, never mind, bro. My bad, guys. It's just happened too quickly. Wait, don't re-enter yet. Don't re-enter yet. Hold up. Okay. Yeah. So it is very trappy right now. So let's just hold on this one for now. Just give it a few. Because it's still dropping, so this is still risky. Well, I hit TP1, TP2, and then it just took us out. So we're not gonna count that as a trade. We're gonna count that as a trade. So right now, what we're gonna do here, since the market is still very, very volatile and it's obviously working out so many stop loss in here, we're gonna be patient and we're just gonna wait for the structure to start shifting, right? Because it's still not confirmed. We're still trading technically the entire trend that happened from the London session. So this one here, you just want to be more patient, and we're gonna wait to see how it reacts with all of these entire key levels from these exact zones. So maybe we have no, this is too. Yeah, so we're gonna wait for this here. We're gonna focus on the structure. So still not clean for us, guys. All right, so if you guys, okay, I'm gonna be, all right, so I'm gonna be taking the position again. So I just took it again here at 42.43 is my entry. So I retook the position, guys. 42.42, 42.40 is the entry, guys. I'll tell you guys, where's the stop loss? Or was that 42.40, guys? The entry is 42.40, 42. So we got TP1, TP2, and TP3 right now, guys. We're going to TP4, which is 42.48. There we go. So now we got all of the take profit smacked. So don't go break even yet. I'm still gonna be holding, so don't go break even yet. Secure some profits, but don't go break even. I'll tell you guys exactly when we're gonna go break even. So we got the initial move that we wanted. Or it's coming back here at the entry. Wait, so just be active here. Technically, we're now sitting at take profit one. So we come back towards the entry and we start trading underneath it. And that's where we have to be a little bit careful, guys. So I'll let you guys know. Look at this price. Don't re-enter yet. Well, yeah, I just continue dropping, guys. So never mind. So this setup did fail for us. We managed to hit the TP4, but wasn't a good risk to reward for us. So that's why I told you not guys not to go break even because that was not going to be a good trade. All right, so we took a win and two losses today. Interesting, interesting, interesting. So at this point here, since we already took these two losses here, I'm not going to be trading no more. This is already like technically the three trades that we have rules. But I will see how it plays out from here, right? We're gonna be focusing still on these key levels, right? We're not gonna be taking the trades, but I want you guys to just pretty much just focus on these type of key levels, right? This is the buy position that we took. We took three buys today. So we go over the first one. This was the first buy that we took, which was obviously we already explained this from the earlier part. And then the second buy position was after price action rejecting off this entire zones over here, which we got the entry signal, which was simply pulling back towards the structure, which price action failed. The third entry was very, very similar, coming back towards this 30-minute structure right above here, which price action did have an initial move towards the upside quickly, but again, showing us that sellers are still in control of the market. So at this point here, since we already took those two losses, we're gonna call it a day. Didn't go the way that I planned. The first losing day of this entire week. So we're gonna close it out with a losing day, which is completely fine. It's part of the game. Part of the game. So in this trade here, we're gonna have to see how it plays out. Yeah, yeah. We'll come back next week again. Yeah, this week in the this account management that I'm doing right now, we're going back to the 13. I would like to see how this zone here plays out because now you see now our sell zone from here, the 43.50 is invalid. So it's no longer in, I'm no longer interested in taking sells from here. But where you guys can probably look for, if you guys want to continue trading, you guys can, we can just mark it up and just have it marked up for all of us. Um, but technically a good zone that we can look for sales since now that price action pretty much respected that area that we were just talking about, that it was the mid-range and then price action had this huge drop towards the downside. So the area that I would say will be a good zone for possibly pullback will be this entire broken structure. So anywhere between this, so you remember this bullish fair value gap right here, anywhere between there. So technically a pullback towards these areas. That can be a probably good zone for sales. And then we can probably, if we kind of mark this up as a round psychological number, which is 4,200, because we're very close to that zone. Yeah, so now we're also trading between this mid-range here. So just take a look between, it's just so much liquidity right now, so much volume stopping us out. Like the point, I feel like this trade here, the one that we're just in, sir. All right. But yeah, so those were the trade that we took. Sucks, didn't go as planned, guys. I wanted to win today with you guys, but again, this is a full transparency, right? Trading is not all about winning. We've been winning the past couple of days. These two losses were meant to be. Very nice. We performed it correctly, approached the market correctly, and did not overtrade or revenge trade in this point here. So now we're gonna step out the market. We followed technically everything that we wanted to see. Now we just let the market do its thing, and we come back next week again. But before we end the call, will you guys be down to do live calls for the VIP only? Like you guys would like to be doing this live trading calls every day, or you guys want specific days? They're probably gonna be live trading next week as well. Probably 2 or 3 times is what I'm looking to do. Since I might do get busy in the morning, so the more the better. Every day, 3 times. Okay, cool. All right. So we can do this next week. Next week I will start the days that we trade, the day that I send out free signals, will be Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we can do live calls Monday, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Friday. Friday we can do the live calls with free, and then we can just keep it on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. I'll just update you guys with that one in the VIP. So Monday, Wednesday will be ideally. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Yeah. All right, good. Cool, cool. All right. Thank you guys for the Zoom call. We'll see you guys again next week. Hope you guys have a great weekend. It's just